السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين، وبعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. قال الله تبارك وتعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وقال: يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. وقال: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام: المؤمن للمؤمن كالبنيان يشد بعضه بعضا، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Muslim scholars have throughout history documented the various ways that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam communicated his ideas, communicated the revelation to the general masses, whom we know as the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum. Sometimes he used to illustrate with drawing a diagram on the ground. Other times he used to give an analogy, give an example. Sometimes he used to physically demonstrate. But it's one thing for certain that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ is on record for his beautiful way of explaining Islam through a number of different tools. I want to focus on what we would consider an analogy. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ, when describing our role, our relationship with one another as Muslims, he gives a very powerful, very profound example. He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "Al-mu'minu lil-mu'mini kal-bunyan." That when we want to define our relationship as brothers and sisters in Islam, there are so many things that come to mind. That I can support one another financially, we can support each other through education. There are so many ways. But how can we best define our relationship with one another? That when I see another Muslim brother or I see another Muslim sister, what comes to my mind when I think about our relationship through the medium of Islam? The Messenger of Allah ﷺ, in very clear terms, he explains for you and I, Al-mu'minu lil-mu'mini kal-bunyan, that we are like a fortress, an impenetrable fortress. Yashuddu ba'duhu ba'da, that we support one another in making the edifice, making the fortress of Islam the strong way it is right now. When we see a fortress, when you see a wall that is impenetrable, you think about the bricks that make that wall the way it is. However, if some walls have a missing component, some bricks are missing or some bricks are weak, then that fortress can easily be broken into. That defense isn't that strong. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ is saying that we in Islam, we're like a fortress. We are all bricks. And no one person can say that, no, I play no role in the bigger puzzle or in this bigger scheme of what Islam is. I'm just a Muslim, I accept Islam, I am a Muslim, and I live my life as a Muslim, I die as a Muslim, end of story. No, each and every one of us, we have a responsibility as being a brick in the formation of what Islam is today, and what Islam has always been. And as such, we should recognize our role and responsibility. If you study the lives of the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, it's very clear that all of them collectively earned the respect, earned the love, earned the happiness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Throughout the Quran we read, رَضِيَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ, that Allah is pleased with them, and they are pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the way each and every one of them earned their individual rank in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was very different. You look at Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would say, Allahumma allimhu al-hikmah wa ta'wil, that, oh Allah, teach Ibn Abbas the true wisdom and the true interpretation of the Quran. And he grew up to be known as Hibru Hadhihi al-Ummah, one of the most educated in this Ummah. His tafsir is constantly quoted throughout our discussions. So we know Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma was a great Sahabi, but he was a specialist in the field of tafsir. Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu was considered wi'a'ul ilm, a vessel of knowledge. And the Messenger of Allah ﷺ commented and commended him for his enthusiasm for studying hadith. On a number of occasions we see when the Sahaba would ask, how is it that Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu knows so many hadith that we don't know? And then the Sahaba would reply, because when everybody was busy attending to their daily needs, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, on an empty stomach, would spend countless hours with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to learn the hadith. So Abu Hurairah was the muhaddith of this ummah. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, they gained juristic insight. They were among the fuqaha, such as Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, that they had the understanding of the fiqh of this deen, and they were known for their fiqh. Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, Mu'adh ibn Jabal. When you think about these great luminaries, immediately we think of the Sahaba as a whole, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum wa radu an, but we do not forget that each and every individual among them contributed to Islam in a very specific way as well. Yes, collectively, they made an amazing, brilliant contribution to Islam. It's because of them that Islam carried on down the generations. But individually, each of them supported Islam in their own capacity. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, the financial support they gave to this ummah is unprecedented and can never be rivaled. During the Battle of Tabuk, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he is trying to gain some funds for the expedition, it was Uthman radiallahu anhu's contribution that left the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam speechless in joy. That, subhanAllah, in our most need, Uthman radiallahu anhu comes and he supports. And later on, as the borders of Islam began to grow, other Sahaba such as Abdul Rahman ibn Auf contributed for the development of Islam. So financial contribution was a great part of Islam as well. So what am I trying to get across over here? That when we think of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, each and every one of them is special in our hearts. We don't say their name except that we say Allah is pleased with them. We don't remember them except that we remember them through the good that they have done. We don't mention them except that we mention the good that they have brought to this ummah. But that does not mean that they all have specialties that we think about, that we reminisce over, that we focus on. We think about the fiqh of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, subhanallah, that he was such a great faqih that when he went to Kufa, Umar radiallahu anhu was asked that we need someone who is intelligent. We need someone who can teach the masses, who can teach the people. And Umar radiallahu anhu says, I am giving preference to you with someone who's so dear to me, but I know you need him, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. And then when we think about the other Sahaba, we think about their specialties, which teaches us a practical lesson. And what is that lesson? The lesson is, as Muslims in this society, in humanity in large, but in this society in particular, I need to figure out what role will I play for the development of Islam. Education may be my forte. Education may be my medium. So I will study, I will go to the scholars, and I will educate myself, and I will disseminate knowledge. For others, it may be financial contribution. That, you know what, I don't have the time to seek that education, but what I can do is I will try to earn, and I will support financially. For others, it can be through counseling. That I don't have the time for Islamic knowledge, I don't have the means of financially supporting, but I will use my skill as a counselor to support this ummah. Others will say that I will support in whatever capacity I can. But the lesson that we all need to take from the lives of the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, and also from the way the Messenger of Allah ﷺ spoke about them, as we learn from a number of ahadith. It comes in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad, Tirmidhi, Nasai, Ibn Majah, and a number of other locations through a Sahih Sanad, that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, he describes the Sahaba. And we hear this in the khutbah very frequently. أَرْحَمُ أُمَّتِي بِأُمَّتِي أَبُو بَكْرٍ وَأَشَدُّهُمْ فِي أَمْرِ اللَّهِ عُمَرٍ وَأَصْدَقُهُمْ حَيَاءً عُثْمَانٍ. We hear the different accolades, the different praises for the Sahaba, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam identified what was special in them, identified how best they can bring about change in this ummah. And you and I, we need to assess and think, I am not just going to be another passive Muslim, that I just accept Islam and I live my life ordinarily thinking that, no, you know what, change and bringing about something positive in Islam is beyond my capacity. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam appreciated every single individual's contribution regardless of who that person was. Male, female, ethnicity meant nothing. So when a Sahabi came to give a financial contribution, and it was just a meager amount of dates, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was so elated. He was so happy that when the munafiqun were criticizing him, and saying that, what is the Messenger of Allah ﷺ and Allah going to do with your insignificant contribution? The Messenger of Allah ﷺ, to disprove them, takes those dates and he sprinkles it on top of the rest of the contribution because of how meaningful it was to him. And when we think about how different Sahaba contributed in their own capacity, Salman al-Farsi, Bilal radiallahu anhu, all of these Sahaba, they are teaching us a lesson. That whether I'm an engineer, whether I'm a doctor, whether I'm an architect, whether I'm a scholar, whether I'm a student, whether I just go to high school, it does not give me an excuse to sit back and say, I have nothing to offer Islam. No, every one of us is special in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And every one of us can help in a particular capacity, but we need to sit back and assess what role that I can play. But equally important is, once I have determined my role, I do not go and criticize other people in their role, or take up a role that I do not fit myself in, I am not qualified for. So if my way of helping the ummah is through helping them by my medical expertise, that I will give medical counsel to those who need it, mashallah, I will help in that way. But when other people are helping through their knowledge, helping through their counseling, helping through their financial ability, I will not point fingers and criticize, because al-mu'minu lil-mu'mini kal-bunyan. We are like a fortress and we support one another. a very interesting statement of Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala comes to mind. Ibn Abdul Barr rahimahullah ta'ala mentions in his At-Tamheed that Imam Malik radiallahu anh was a great scholar. We know him for his Muwatta, we know him for his hadith. إِذَا ذُكِرَ الْحَدِيث فَمَالِكٌ النَّجْمُ. That when we think about hadith, we think about Imam Malik as the star. So there was a famous abid, a person who was very focused in worship. His name was Abdullah ibn Abdul Aziz al-Abid. So he writes a letter to Imam Malik because he would see Imam Malik in his circles of knowledge, and he would see the ways he would contribute to the ummah. But he felt that, you know what, it's beautiful what he is doing, but I would prefer if he were to give his khidamat, his service to the ummah in a different capacity. That he would serve this ummah perhaps by focusing more on ibadah, by focusing more on a'mal, by focusing more on infirad. So he writes a letter to Imam Malik and he says that, you know what, I respect that you are teaching people and you're disseminating knowledge, but you know what, why don't you consider taking a break from that and spending more time just doing a'mal and worrying more about your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wrote the letter very politely. Imam Malik, he receives the letter. He reads the letter and he writes back to him by saying, first of all, obviously commending him for his concern and saying that, you know what, Jazakallah khair for your nasiha, for your advice. But then he says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَسَمَ الْأَعْمَالِ كَمَا قَسَمَ الْأَرْزَاقِ. That indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has divinely distributed the actions that we will do just like He has distributed our sustenance. When I wake up for breakfast, when I go for lunch, when I have dinner, the food that I'm eating has already been written for me. I could not have eaten anything else. So we know that our sustenance has been ordained for us. Imam Malik says, just like we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also made the ways through which we will give service to this ummah, that has also been ordained. كُلٌّ مُيَسَّرٌ لِمَا خُلِقَ لَهُ. That we all have our paths made easy for us in whatever capacity we're going to work. So he says, فَرُبَّ رَجُلٍ فُتِحَ لَهُ فِي الصَّلَاةِ وَلَمْ يُفْتَحْ لَهُ فِي الصَّوْمِ. That for some people, salah will be the way they will connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That I can pray abundantly. I can spend my entire night in tahajjud and my feet won't hurt. But for other people, فَرُبَّ رَجُلٍ فُتِحَ لَهُ فِي الصَّوْمِ وَلَمْ يُفْتَحْ لَهُ فِي الْجِهَادِ. But for other people, they are having their connection with Allah by fasting, that I feel fasting is the way I'll connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the message that he's trying to give across to him is that we all have a role to play and we should try to figure what is our specialty. And like I mentioned, each and every one of us is special in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Regardless of your age, regardless of your gender, regardless of your ethnicity, no one can tell us that we can play no role in the development and upliftment of Islam. But it's important that we bear two things in mind. First and foremost, that we find out what is it that I'm good at. Do I feel that I'm good at relating with the youth? Then I'm going to go to the youth of the masjid and I'm going to bring them closer to Islam. Do I feel medical counsel is how I can assist? Then the needy or the sick in our community, I will help them. Is it financially that I can support? That when there's a good, noble cause in need of my help, I will help. Is it ilm and knowledge? Then I will assist. Just like all of the Sahaba were beloved in the sight of Allah, but each one of them had a specialty, we too, inshaAllah, are beloved in the sight of Allah, but we will contribute very specifically. And we should figure that out, and through that we will try to help this ummah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to benefit this ummah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to hone our skills. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the opportunity to figure out our specialties and uplift Islam through that. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه يا فوز المستغفرين. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة، من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد واهتدى، ومن يعص الله ورسوله فقد ضل وغوى. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وأتباعه أجمعين. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: أرحم أمتي بأمتي أبو بكر، وأشدهم في أمر الله عمر، وأصدقهم حياء عثمان، رضي الله تعالى عنهم وعن الصحابة أجمعين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم إنا نسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والغنيمة من كل بر والسلامة من كل إثم. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته، ولا هما إلا فرجته، ولا دينا إلا قضيته، ولا مريضا إلا شفيته، ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا والآخرة هي لك رضا إلا قضيتها ويسرتها يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين يا رب العالمين. قال الله تبارك وتعالى: فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون. يا معشر المسلمين أقيموا الصلاة وصلوا.
الله أكبر الله أكبر، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله.
استووا اعتدلوا سووا صفوفكم وتراصوا. Please ensure the lines are straight. There are no gaps in between. If others see any gaps, please fill in those gaps. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى. سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله، إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى، ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى. سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى، ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى. بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى. إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى، صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. القارعة ما القارعة وما أدراك ما القارعة يوم يكون الناس كالفراش المبثوث وتكون الجبال كالعهن المنفوش فأما من ثقلت موازينه فهو في عيشة راضية وأما من خفت موازينه فأمه هاوية وما أدراك ما هي نار حامية. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, on this Sunday, the sister began having their monthly halaqa. It's going to be upstairs, and it will be at 6:45, inshallah ta'ala. This Sunday, the monthly halaqa for our sisters. It's going to be this sister's only. It's going to be upstairs Sunday at 6:45, inshallah ta'ala. You know, I mean, if you have, you know, I mean, your wife, your daughter, just welcome and come to listen to the halaqa, inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah ta'ala, just a reminder, we're going to have our general body meeting. It's going to be this Wednesday at 9 p.m. This Wednesday at 9 p.m. You are welcome, please, to attend. Just come, we need your feedback, we need an opinion. Please just come and join us, inshallah. This Wednesday at 9 p.m. we're going to have our general body meeting, inshallah. And then the youth out in the back right, they just help them with setting the food there. 5 of them will help for the camps that's going to be organized next month, inshallah. It's going to be next month for the camps for our youth. And again, reminding about the parking. We see a lot of complaint about the parking. Please, please, please. Just go ahead. If you like anyone, just go move your car. And somewhere else to come back and for something else, going to be with your friend or something. Just go ahead and just move your car. If you like anybody, just move your car. Exactly like it.